Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 1, Episode 10 of Gotham Knights. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So immediately picking up after last episode, we find out what happened to Turner. Turner is dying from radiation poisoning. You're like, wow, that's wild. I would have never expected that until Harper pulled out the Geiger counter. I was like, that's interesting. So it turns out it's because electrum in its purest state is radioactive. It's fine when it's in its crystallized form, but the moment it's introduced to the blood system is when it really kicks in. That's when it's at its, I guess, most radioactive. I mean, I guess it makes sense. It is, in fact, a space rock, so you really don't think about it, but it's like, I mean, especially after all this time, but I guess it's like when the radiation is kind of stored, I guess it's in the core of what that is, so either way, it's interesting, too, because they end up looking into it later. It's Harper and Cullen that look into it and find out a lot of his people he experimented on died from radiation poisoning. And it makes sense but he hadn't fully refined it yet. So it isn't just the electrum. It is other stuff used to solidify it and break down the radiation so that you have 100% the benefits of the immortality just without the negative consequences of the radiation. Like, you have to minimize that as much as possible so the healing factors, all the positives kind of outweigh any, like, there might be some spectrum of like radiation left, but it won't ever be to the extent that it would be if you just took the pure electrum like Turner's in that case. So not only is Turner dying from the radiation poison, he's only got a couple hours left to live. He ends up talking to Carrie about everything, and Carrie gives him the pages because she read them and they're vague. They don't even give a clear answer. But in the journal, he says feels responsible for Turner's parents' death, and Carrie's like, right. Batman always swore to never kill. That's always a principle she's lived by too. But even she can't help but think as time is going on more and more that just like Turner kind of figured it out because of all the stuff he saw last episode, she's starting to wonder maybe, just maybe, Bruce did do it. I still don't think he did. This might be the only Batman continuity recently where, at least like live action wise, that Batman doesn't kill. Because Batman's killed in every other continuity. He's killed in Gotham, killed in Titans, killed in Batwoman. It's like, yeah, so, I mean, at least that we're aware of, at least in the Gotham, at least in the Batwoman and Titans case, it's the Joker he killed. Doesn't make it any better. It's still the thing if you killed him. I mean, let's not forget there's also Earth 99 Batman from the original multiverse that brutally murdered so many of his supervillains, So this might be the one Batman that I think he feels responsible, but I don't think he did it. Once again, we don't fully know who Turner's parents really were, like why Bruce would feel like maybe it's just like hey, I couldn't save them. Maybe it was a thing. It might have been once again a selfish choice, very much like the Dark Knight. It might have been a selfish choice situation, and he chose one situation over. I don't know. Like, why else would he say he feels responsible in some shape or form if you had no direct correlation with their death? Maybe he directly but indirectly had something to do with their death. Like, what that scenario is, we don't know yet. Once again, I'm curious, is it going to end up being that Turner's parents are somebody of significance or not? You know? There's plenty of people whose parents are somebody in the DC universe, and same thing's applicable in Marvel. So I'd assume it might just be a thing, and I think it means a lot more if it is a thing of, yes, he comes from nothing. But like I said, my thoughts have always been that he is connected to the Court of Owls, since they've always taken such an interest in him. Maybe they've always known the truth about his parents, but maybe that's not the case at all. I think I think it'd be more important if his parents were nobodies, because that is the thing of, just because his family were nobodies doesn't mean they didn't matter, because nobody's a nobody. Somebody to somebody else. I mean, because at the end of the day, who were they? They were Turner's parents, so they were somebody to him. So, and especially in a town in Gotham where the somebodies really matter, and then the nobodies, the quote-unquote nobodies, are seen as nobodies by people rather than the somebodies they are. Said in the most confusing way. Try to be prolific, but it just sounded like gibberish, I'm sure, but still. I hope the point I'm trying to make got across my yammering. But either way, so he's not in best terms with Carrie because now it's like, right, not only did you know this, you lied to me, now it's also you playing into that whole, like, yeah, you were actually my dad's perfect sidekick because you're a replica of him of like, right, you're doing this whole thing alone, you're hiding stuff to protect people, and you're the one making the decision what people need to be protected from. So she wants to get her mom involved, but it is that thing of, yeah, but you get your mom involved, it is a recipe for disaster because when she becomes in the know about all of this, that does eventually put a target on her back if she becomes associated with you guys, which is something to be concerned about because she does, jumping ahead a little bit, she is the one that ends up helping Turner by giving him the transfusion, and Carrie had to confess to her about everything. It's like, no, if you turn in everyone else, you're going to have to turn me in too because you might say like, oh, they're criminals, even though like, yeah, some of them are, but Turner isn't a bad guy. In fact, we've been doing things as the Gotham Knights. Also, I was Batman's sidekick. I was Robin. So you'd have to throw me in there too but it's like Turner and them aren't guilty. They aren't. But for her, like it is that thing of, yeah, but her mom's like, you got me mixed up in all of this because by you bringing him to me, my job is to do no harm. Like, it doesn't matter who they are, what they've done. My job is to save a patient no matter what. But now by you, like, letting him go, like, you made yourself an accomplice, made me an accomplice. We could lose our entire lives for this. Especially for her, it's like, I'm not going to have our entire lives flushed down the toilet for a criminal. I mean, I'm sure it'd be the other side of things too, even if he wasn't the criminal that he is. It's like, because he will always be seen as, prior to this, he was the spoiled rich kid. It's like, right, you are the son of the most powerful family. He's the son of the most powerful family in Gotham. One of the richest families, and, with, once again, the large gap between wealth and poor, and even the wealthy and the middle class in Gotham. It's a large gap. So now we didn't get a full opportunity to see how Dr. Kelly fully processed knowing like, oh, my daughter is Batman's sidekick. I wasn't expecting her to ever kind of, kids can only hide that type of stuff for so long before the parents, or at least the guardian figures, end up finding out in some shape or form. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where things kind of go on that front going forward. I could definitely see her restricting Carrie a lot, being very like, well, having your own personal doctor kind of helping you, which I'm curious, she could easily feel like a Lee Thompson. Is it Thompson or Tompkins? But once again, the entire time of Gotham, I never knew that character was a character from the comics. It wasn't until season 3 of Titans that I found out that character is a character from the comics. Obviously in the comics, she's a lot older. At least the versions I've seen of that character from the comics are much older. Obviously, the one from Gotham was like, to be fair, that was set in the past too, so her being on the younger side also makes sense too. Either way, so I don't know if Dr. Kelly's going to play kind of a similar role because that's kind of the role Lee kind of plays in support. Like, she is a Batman supporter in that regard, an ally. So she is a doctor too, so it would be interesting. It would be very befitting for Kelly's mom to kind of fill that role too, especially now she knows her daughter's out there doing a vigilante thing, and she might get a little overprotective. In fact, she might want her to go, no, you need to put up this like goggles, this superhero thing. It's like, no, that's not you. I'm not about to have you out there doing all this dangerous stuff, even though you've been doing dangerous stuff behind my back, but I now know about it, so that's the difference. So we have that, and kind of keeping it with the group. There's a lot of things to kind of fill in there. So first and foremost, we have the Stephanie and Turner situation, which I love they got swept up in a moment. I was worried that Duella would walk in and kind of be bummed, but that didn't happen. But like, they kissed, but she didn't feel anything, and she was hoping that maybe if something did happen between them, she'd feel better than she does. Like, it'd make her feel something different than what she feels with Brody. Well, have I been calling him Bryce these past episodes? I can never remember if I know. I always was like, oh, Lincoln's son, because I can never remember his name. Because it's like, I don't know if I've corrected his name before. I feel like I've said Bryce in the past. I don't know if I've said Brody in the past. Either way. So, and immediately she's like, yeah, and I haven't felt that spark for Brody. I was like, hey, yo, okay. So at least I was like, okay, Harper doesn't know that, but if she does, you're going to have your moment at some point. But it's kind of like, and I love that Turner's like, hey, I will take the win. Because he never liked Brody, and he definitely never liked them together. And it's like, hey, if you don't feel that way about Brody, then A+ is all around. It all works out, in the grand scheme of things. So there's that. So, but there's also, speaking of Harper, she is kind of acting very cold towards Stephanie, which Colin's like, oh, you're taking my advice, but do we really need to go that far? And it's like, right. Once again, it's back to that thing of we're from different worlds, but more so than anything, once our names are cleared, we're leaving this place and have no reason to kind of stick around for her. This is our opportunity to kind of have fresh lives. Our plans were always to get out of Gotham, but Colin brings up, yeah, but for the first time, I feel like I'm part of a family, and I know you feel that too. We've never had a good family, like having to deal with their dad the way they did. And for the first time, they feel loved and connected. They have a makeshift family of their own, and Colin's not too quick to want to throw that all away. Why get rid of something that is something we've been kind of stressing and searching for in our entire lives? Like, we've been on our own for so long, just us being the only one we can rely on. Now we don't have to be like that anymore. So it is getting Harper thinking, but if she especially finds out about the whole Brody thing and nothing between Brody or her and Stephanie or Turner, then it's like, right, she's gonna feel that spark at some point in time. So I think that's also why she was probably like kind of hurt a little bit, because like once again she's becoming really good friends with Harper, and it's like, oh, maybe on some level she was feeling that spark and she just doesn't know it yet. But she was kind of hurt when like Harper was kind of pushing her away, considering everything going on. So, I did love her being able to kind of confuse the cops when the cops showed her. The moment Lincoln brought it up early in the episode, being like, "Oh yeah, I know a way to track down Turner." I was like, right. He has radiation poison because you guys know more about the Electrum than our Gotham Knights do. So, of course, you would know, like, right, we just need to track that down. So they sent the cops to go after Turner, but Stephanie diverted that. I'm assuming that was supposed to be, like, I wonder, is that Lincoln's? Well, no, because he hadn't gotten his weed yet. So I don't know if she was able to get that from him. So it's probably just like, she probably just faked it. It probably wasn't real weed anyway. She just probably like pretended like, oh, it's easier just to be like, yeah, I'm a teenager. So you're just assuming like, oh, I'm a stoner if you're like getting high. So was able to kind of clear them away so don't have to worry about them coming back around looking for Turner, because the radiation had kind of died out by the time they would come searching again. So. Now let's shift over to the Brody side of things. I thought that was fascinating, Brody finding out the truth about his dad. Because even he was like, yeah, I found out my dad... Like, who was it that he believed his dad had killed? It wasn't even Cressida. It was something else. Because his dad's so much of a sociopath in his mind. It's like, my dad's that much of an asshole. I don't find it that much of a stretch that he's a serial killer. I mean, not a serial killer, but a killer, that he's killed someone. Even when he found out about Cressida, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't even believe that that's the first person he's ever killed. No. He found out about Cressida because of the video, because the moment we saw it, I was like, that's the video, that was the recording that, Lincoln took. Not Lincoln, jeez, Turner took. So he now knows, but he didn't know about the whole, like, oh, my dad's part of some secret society, and Stephanie had to fill him in. And the sad thing is, he wanted to bring his mom, he wanted to get his mom away from their dad, because it's like, yeah, he's that much of a sociopathic asshole, he might hurt my mom, especially considering she's having an affair and everything. But the moment he was kind of like, right, we got to do this, and she was kind of trying to talk him out of it, I'm like, are you part of this? We know for sure Lincoln is, and it's like, can really one partner be a part of the Court of Owls without the other person being? Because at the end of the day, it's still a situation of, as we've seen, there's a whole, like, almost everyone that's part of the Court of Owls is a couple, so it would make sense for her to be, like, I wonder, has she been at any of the meetings or whatever? Because anytime we see them pop up, it's always like, not always him, but it's like he seems to be the main person. But I guess he's like second in command. Like, why their family's kind of at the top ring of like the Court of Owls, like maybe their family in particular. Like, I wonder, is it like maybe his family's not really the prominent family, maybe hers is, and it's like maybe her family started the court, so it's more so her lineage, her legacy. Like, I was kind of like thinking she was going to like, I thought the whole thing was she was going to bring Lincoln in and then be like Brody and try to talk him down. Never did I suspect she would straight up murder her own son. It's like, geez, all these parents being so willing to kill their kids, being like, oh, you're a disappointment. It's like, wow, the White Dragon would join your squad. A certain other superpowered father on a different superhero universe would be like, hey, what's another 17 years? Can start again. Because Brody's such a disappointment. I don't know if she had planned what Lincoln ended up having planned. Because even Lincoln was like, yo, you could let me handle it. She's like, what? Like, you're the one who created this mess. You're the one that wanted to be the idiot who keeps trophies. But it's like, right. I also love like how villainous she was, where it's like, whoa, you think you're just like your dad. You think you know, like, oh, like he's the one that you should be afraid of. It's me. I was like, ooh, I love her being scary like that. I love that, especially with the whole Harvey of it all, which makes me go like, right, could the Harvey stuff even be Lincoln? That might be Rebecca, because it's like, how would they know about that stuff? It's like, well, the court has their connections. They have their hands in so many pockets, so it could easily just be like they have access to his doctor, like his doctor is under their like payroll, or she works for them, or maybe she is a member of the court. Or it could just be like maybe Rebecca's always known about Harvey's circumstances because they've known each other in the past, so maybe she knew about his upbringing and his father and his own medical condition when it comes to his psychosis, not his psychological situation. So that's kind of a thought I have. I have no idea. All I know is she told that to me, because that's the big thing. Like Harvey was asking, is like, how did they know about that? It's like, that is kind of the $1 million question. Once again, an easy solution would just be like, hey, we paid off some doctors or whatever. But it's like, why would you even know about that in the first place? And it's like, well, Rebecca knows Harvey enough to know that, so it has to be from her perspective, and especially if she's potentially running the court. Which I have my thoughts about that. I'm like, once again, is she just a prominent family from the court, from Gotham? But I'm also like, you don't think they're going to do something wild, like make her like Talia or something, do you? Like, you don't think they're going to make her an Al Ghul, do you? Like that. Because like I said, I remember from Gotham, and once again, this could be my mistake, but like, wasn't the Court of Owls tied to to the League of Shadows in some shape or form? I just don't remember. So, but I think that'd be interesting if we find out she is actually like an Al Ghul or something like that. Like, I would assume Talia and maybe not Nissa. Or like, probably more likely like a Shia. I don't know. We'll have to find out. That's a background theory. Like, I'm not putting too much stock in that, but it crossed my mind being like, could she be like secretly Talia or something like that? But it's more likely she's just like a prominent member. Like I said, maybe her family founded the Court of Owls. Like they're the first family in the court or something. I don't know. So that's why she has such significance. But like, does she also have a mask? Does she not actually go to the meetings? Is she so behind the scenes that people just know about Lincoln, but not her? Or are they aware that this is kind of her show? Because she seems now she makes Lincoln look like a kitten in front of every. Now you also wonder, like, was that even Lincoln's idea to get stabbed by the Talon? Was that her idea to throw some heat off of Lincoln? I mean, he's also the one that went out of his way to reveal himself to Turner. I guess he was so certain that he was going to be able to get Turner on his side, so that was kind of stupid on his part. I'm sure she's not too happy about that. I don't know. I mean, hell, maybe even. I was about to say not. I wonder if it's a Turner thing all Lincoln, or is it also Rebecca's idea too? We'll ultimately have to wait and see. So there's all of that. And finally, let's get to the Harvey of it all. I really enjoy Misha Collins playing like the more like the darker side of Harvey. Like you could tell like, oh, like he's chewing up the scenery. He's having like how playful that other side of him is. I'm like, oh, you're enjoying the hell out of this. Because it's just like you get to play like this this very straight-laced, hey, I'm all about justice version of yourself, but at the same time you also get to play that darker, twisted like duality of him too. And it's like, oh, I know what you're doing, Harvey. You're making that face, but come on, you need to take some pills. Like it's not, I mean, it could kill you, like, but you need to take one less than what would kill you. The number 17, Harvey. Even later on, being like, wow, I'm surprised you did it, because I was like 60-40 on that you'd actually do it or not. So because it's really interesting to know that it is kind of what I thought it was. I equated it to the Moon Knight situation. So, but in this case, the other Harvey is the Steven, and our Harvey, the Harvey we know, is the Mark Spector of it all. So, because the other Harvey is the one that's like, right, I was created with how you dealt with your trauma. It's like, yeah, when your dad beat you, he didn't just like fracture your arm. He also fractured your psyche. And anytime life ever got too tough for you, I would kick in. And then I started thinking like, oh, is that what the phone thing's about? Like the music, I was like, right, Harvey's psyche can't handle what they're making him do, so he brings you to the surface. But there's actually a psychological trigger behind that, because those same notes, the reason why they had the effect they do on Harvey is because that's the notes his dad would beat him until he got right. So it's ingrained in him psychologically, so it triggers him. And so it's, once again, like, that seems like something you'd only know about because if you were close to him, like a Rebecca, or you steal his therapist notes. I'd be worried. I still think you should be weary of that therapist, but we'll see. But yeah, like Harvey ended up in a dreamlike state. It's almost like this, especially because timing's interesting, because obviously we had a similar thing with Caitlin and Frost. Obviously, like, Frost was technically always there. It just didn't become a prominent thing until like Flashpoint. That's like, yeah, like you've always had a meta-human side to you. It's kind of a similar thing in this regard. And like they talk to each other, like, and when they were kids, at least in the case of Harvey, that they would talk in dreams, but Harvey got older, and that he got older, so that kind of went away. But his medication ended up being the tether that allowed him to over-medicate, and then he was able to meet the other side of himself, which all he had to do, flip the coin. I was like, yeah, I love it. And then I love he hides the results of it. He looks at it and looks up, and it's just like that devilish look on his face. I love it. But it's like, yeah, I'm the one that popped up when you couldn't do what needed to be done. I was that guy. And so it turns out he's not the one doing everything. It is, in fact, the court is framing him, but they knew that they wanted to put Harvey in a situation where it's like, hey, you distrust yourself because we know about your condition. In fact, you're the perfect patsy, and we could destroy you and make you take the fall for everything, like we did with Joe Chill and so on and so forth. So it's like, yeah, we can, you're the perfect patsy with your medical condition. If we take advantage of it, leave you enough breadcrumbs, you are the person that is going to immediately take the evidence at face value and believe you are responsible. And it's like, yeah, but it's not even me. I'm not the one doing it. In fact, because of what they are doing, it is putting the other Harvey in a situation where he can see what's going on. So he's like, right, I can be the one to take them down. I just need you to not only let me into the driver's seat, I need you to give me the keys. I was like, interesting. And for him, it's like, because I'm the one that has to do what's been done, needs to be done. I've done it before. He's the one that killed their dad. And especially how he described it. It's like, oh yeah, I loosened some like bolts or whatever on the banister. He fell over, broke his back, screaming out in pain for like 3 hours. 2 of those hours, he was begging me to call the ambulance and stuff like that, get him help. Then that third hour, he was like, all right, like in my suffering. And it's like, yeah, you killed my dad. It's like, no, our dad, Harvey. And if I killed him before he can kill us, because he would have killed us, you know? Like I said, I don't know enough about Two-Face in the comics to know whether or not they've dived into the character. Any version of, like, because obviously the only live action Two-Faces I can think of, like, I don't remember if we ever got Tommy Lee Jones as, like, Harvey Dent before being Two-Face. I don't remember. I think we did with the Riddler. Maybe we did with the Riddler and Two-Face, or was he already Two-Face by the time that movie started? I don't remember. And I don't obviously, like, sadly, not a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people remember Aaron Eckhart's, like, Two-Face, because obviously, like, sadly, like, Heath Ledger's Joker kind of steals the movie. Also, funny enough, when, like, I think someone pointed out, like, if you think of, I think when you time it, his Joker's only in the movie for, like, 16 minutes. I think legitimately I was like, that's wild. Because you think, I guess because his appearances are so sporadic throughout the movie, you would think it's a lot more, but I guess it's like, right, like probably like on screen and stuff like that. That character's only like on screen as the Joker for like a small amount of time. I've always said that, but I don't know for sure. I've never actually, checked on it myself. But either way, so like one of those things of like, because he also became Two-Face super late in the movie. It's like the third act of the movie he becomes Two-Face, if I remember correctly. So you'll get enough time of like Two-Face, because he's also dead by the end of the movie. It wasn't the plan not to kill him initially. I think they were going to drag that into the third movie if there was going to be one. I don't remember all the details about the Nolan stuff. But so that's when I'm like, I don't know if I've ever really had this aspect showcase. Like obviously like jokingly you have like the Harley Quinn show showcasing like, oh, like he's going to be Two-Face, and you see it already, but like taking this approach to like, oh, it being this mental illness, I think it's kind of, like I said, maybe it's always been there. Maybe certain runs have leaned into it, like certain Batman runs have probably leaned into it more than others, but kind of having this approach to Two-Face was so interesting, with it just being like not only a medical condition, also a hereditary one, because his dad also had it. So kind of playing into that, and obviously Harvey being torn between the side of him that wants justice and the other side that's like, oh, I want justice, but I don't care how I have to go about it to get it. So I was actually halfway expecting the twist reveal at the end, because obviously Harvey literally in his psyche kills the other Harvey. And he's like, you need me to do what needs to be done. You're not strong enough to do it. And Harvey ends up killing him. And when he came back and he was fiddling with the coin, I was like, oh, like, I thought it was going to cut back and like the other Harvey got up at the last second, knocked our Harvey out and took over. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. Not unless we get a reveal later on that that's exactly what happened. Because the way he was acting later, he was like, yeah, I feel good. Because the thing is, obviously we know later on, like Harvey isn't, like he is still those two people, but I think now there's no way that other Harvey's going. I get, because like, some of it has to play some role in of him being Two-Face. And so the question becomes like, how does that work? Like, is it going to be like, hey, half of his mind is so fractured that it bounces back and forth between Harvey and Two-Face, in that both sides are kind of active at once, and they're both like constantly taking over the driver's seat, and kind of switching at moments. But because it's like the whole Two-Face thing is like, yes, there's two sides of him, but they're one. And it makes me wonder, in this moment, has that kind of like his psyche not recovered but still fractured, and that leads to his Two-Face side being what it is? That is it Harvey that's split in the way that he is? Is it Harvey, our Harvey Dent, being like both the good and bad in him, or is it, like I said, the good Harvey and the bad Harvey? Once again, the wolves that you feed inside, which one do you feed more, the good in you, the bad in you? So I'm not quite sure how they're going to like handle that explanation, but it does leave the room open for them to be like, hey, it's a reveal that actually this isn't Harvey, this is actually bad evil Harvey that's taking control. And even then you can make the argument, it's like, well, evil's not really a stretch. It is, it is what it is, because we know who Harvey is and what his fate is and what his future holds as Two-Face. But I'm sure the other Harvey would be like, evil, that's all relative, because I'm do some bad things, but it's for self-preservation and I'm enacting justice, just not in the same way that Batman would. I'm willing to do whatever it takes for justice, my version of justice, on some light Yagami type of shit, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, especially with the Rebecca of it all. Like, she definitely knows about Harvey and taking advantage of that. You'll probably be looking out for Lincoln, but not her. Makes you wonder, did the other Harvey know if he's not dead, and how that's all going to play out. I even love the reveal, like, oh, I did that because you needed to get laid, Harvey, because you loved her, and you always loved her despite her being married. So I was like, oh, that was other Harvey hooking you up. I thought, like, oh, did the court set that up? It's like, no. Which also means, like, Rebecca had to have known she was with the other Harvey at that time. There's something there, so. Oh, yeah, I also completely forgot to talk about another thing. Like, I didn't even finish up the Lincoln and Rebecca stuff because, like I was saying, like, did Lincoln, I brought it up, but I didn't finish it, Rebecca was like, oh, clean this up. She probably meant the house and everything, but did she mean, like, also, like, go ahead and bring our son back to life? I'm fine with killing him because we have the means to bring him back now. So I'm assuming he's going to be their new Talon, because it's like, cool. I mean, we know he takes fencing and stuff like that, so he is as skilled as Turner is to some extent. But he probably doesn't have as much fight in him as like Turner does. Once again, it's like, well, Turner's circumstances made him kind of grow a little harsher and harder. So like the fact is that he has a little more edge to him than Brody does. I mean, having your mom murdered you, and finding out your dad's a killer and he's part of a secret society, that's enough to add some edge to you as well. So we'll see how that plays out. Once again, like, is that going to be something where Lincoln hides that from Rebecca because it's like she didn't plan for that? It's like, he has the Electrum, so that's a possibility. So that's why I'm like, maybe that's why she was okay with killing him, just to make a point, or she was just like hoping Lincoln wouldn't do what he did. Either way, Brody's back in play now. Sadly, Stephanie doesn't know because Rebecca used his phone to contact her. It's like, hey, I'm leaving with my mom to get away. My dad destroyed the footage. So what could have helped clear the Gotham Knights? Yeah, they're back to square one on that front. But Brody being kind of set up as the new talent, is definitely going to be interesting. And I also forgot another little development this episode about Turner and Duella, which was really sweet. Where it's like, hey, he wanted to be left alone despite everything. But, for her, it's like, right, you can't offend me. He starts listing off all this stuff. And she's like, not going to offend me, not going to offend me. And for him, it's like, because she's like, right, you're so far up your own ass that you're not recognizing the family that's around you, that's helping you, putting their lives on the line to save your life so that you could go back to it. And for him, it's like, yeah, you're right. She's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah. Because she's probably not used to too many people saying you're right. But for him, it's like, I had so many ideas of who what my life is going to be, like solving my dad's murder, and also this little makeshift family I've made for myself, but nothing's kind of turned out the way he thought it would in so many regards, of what his life is going to be. And even when this all said and done, that was kind of the whole point of yeah, none of them can ever go back to the way things were before. Things are different. And then Duella and him start making out, and then proceed to, you can only assume, have sex because they were stripping off their clothes. So it's like, hey, yo. So that happened. So it's probably going to be very a nonchalant of Turner might be like, so do you want to talk about it? Duella's probably like, nope. We both got what we wanted, but it's also because for Turner, it's like, you are the only honest person. I was like, whereas everyone else wanted to kind of spare my feelings, you're the only one that told me the truth of yeah, you only have a couple hours to live. You've always been honest with me, because at the end of the day, you don't try to be anyone but yourself. You're always just Duella, for better or for worse. Even if it annoys people, if it makes people want to not, whatever the case, how people feel about you, you're Duella through and through. So at a time where everything you've come to know about your life is a lie, it's kind of nice to know that, funny enough, the one person you can rely on the most is the Joker's daughter. The irony is palpable, But yeah, a lot of really, really, really interesting things. I'm curious to see ultimately where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.